Evoke the primal fury of the wolf and decimate other players with this Werewolf PvP build for the Elder Scrolls Online. Hey everyone, it's Spopes. I have been hard at work cooking up this PvP werewolf build, and it is finally cooked. Hopefully in a good way. I'm sure you guys will let me know in the comments. We ended up going with a Berserker, Orc, Sorcerer, and I have to say the results are excellent so far, even though it's an off-meta build that is designed to stand the test of time. In this video, I'm going to explain the choices I made with this build and provide everything you need to copy-paste it for yourself. Before we dive in, please like, hype, and subscribe, and consider upgrading your support with a membership, a merch purchase, or a donation. Ever since I learned the Werewolf rework was coming out, I've been thinking about how much fun it would be to make this thing into a PvP powerhouse. Even though this is the first PvP build I've published, I like PvP and ESO a whole lot. I especially like Battlegrounds, and that is what this build is more tailored for. It should also do you fine in Cyrodiil or the Imperial City though, based on the general ideas that went into the build. The overall concept here is taking advantage of the werewolf's incredible speed to hunt down individual targets and destroy them. It's not particularly good in 1vx situations, but it's an incredible 1v1 fighter that's really good at picking out the weakest link in the herd and tearing them to shreds. You're going to be pretty tanky with this build, meaning you'll survive fights easily, but you'll also be laying down consistent offensive pressure that breaks through enemy defenses and becomes even stronger as their health gets lower. The Werewolf rework was the perfect time to make this build. Not only does the Werewolf model look completely different and so much better, but all the skills have been reworked as well. Your Werewolf ultimate is no longer on a timer, and speaking of Werewolf ultimate, you have a new ultimate while you're in Werewolf form. It's called Rampage, and it uses a new resource called Fury. You generate Fury while you're in combat as a werewolf, and when you have 1,000 of this resource, you can activate Rampage, which increases your damage and movement speed and also takes away the cost of werewolf skills. The way this build works in the field is you're going to want to transform into a werewolf as soon as possible. For Battlegrounds, this means getting your ultimate close to the max of 500 before you enter the match. So you simply transform, and then use Feral Pounce to close the distance between you and an enemy. Light attack them immediately when you land, and then use Deafening Roar to instill fear in your enemies and root them in place. From there, use Bloodclaws to start another DOT going, and then just start spamming the crap out of Rip and Tear. This is going to be your main spammable, and once you have everything else going, you're simply going to want to chase them down with Feral Pounce. You may also want to use Feral Carnage from time to time to put in another DOT and also use the execute function, but essentially just pounce after them and rip them up with Rip and Tear. If it's been a moment, you can also fear enemies again with Deafening Roar. You generally won't have to use Bloodclaws more than once per battle, but yeah, basically just chase them down with Pounce, Rip and Tear, and use Hircine's Fortitude if you do need to heal. Now that you understand the basic concepts that went into this werewolf build, let's cover all the nitty-gritty details of the build itself, starting with the race and class you should choose. For my race, I went with an Orc. That's because you get extra stamina, extra health and healing, and also extra speed and weapon and spell damage. The Orc is arguably the best possible race for a PvP werewolf. It's certainly been working out so far. For my race, I chose Sorcerer. This is mainly because the Sorcerer's passives and class mastery passives seem to work the best with the Werewolf's toolkit for PvP. There are other races you could choose here, like Warden or Templar, but Sorcerer does seem to offer the best strategic advantage, and we'll get more into why throughout the course of the video. Next, let's cover which morphs of the werewolf skills I've chosen. My ultimate is Werewolf Berserker, mainly because that's the best way to take advantage of static reverberation on the Sorcerer. Berserker is also arguably stronger than Pack Leader, even though Pack Leader is the best defensive option. From there, I've chosen Feral Pounce, which turns into Feral Carnage when you're close to enemies. The other option does damage in an area, but since this is mainly a single target build, the Feral form of Pounce makes more sense. Then the main spammable is Rip and Tear. This does an incredible amount of damage, especially if you have some stacks of Blood Hunger set up. Speaking of Blood Hunger, Deafening Roar does give you a stack of that. This also does give you major evasion, and its main purpose is stopping your enemies in their tracks so they can't get away from you. Next, I've slotted Hircine's Fortitude, which scales off your max health, which is my highest stat. This is great for healing yourself and providing stamina. And lastly, I have Bloodclaws, which mainly provides a very powerful bleed attack, but it also does heal you and provide blood hunger. Now, you're not going to really be spending any time in human form, if you can at all avoid it, but I do want to cover the human form skills that I have slotted. First, there's Dark Deal from Dark Magic, which uses magicka to restore health and stamina. Under Daedric Summoning, I have Hardened Ward, which protects you while you're generating ultimate to transform into a werewolf. Under Stormcalling, I have Hircine, which is a powerful DOT AoE skill that you can activate before transforming, and also Streak for mobility and stun before you can turn into a werewolf. Lastly, I have Whirling Blades from Dual Wield as your main damage dealer while you are in human form. Next, let's talk about the passive skills you should grab. You're going to want to get all of the werewolf passives, except Shadow of the Blood Moon. Under Dark Magic, you're going to want Unholy Knowledge and Blood Magic. Blood Magic is especially integral to this build. You may also want Persistence, but I honestly don't find myself doing a lot of blocking, and potentially Exploitation for a little bit of a buff when you are in human form. Under Daedric Summoning, you're definitely going to want Power Stone. That reduction in ultimate cost is one of the main benefits of being a sorcerer as a werewolf. Also, Expert Summoner gives you a straight up 5% extra magicka and stamina, and if you do intend to spend a lot of time in human form, you may also want Rebate and Daedric Protection. Under Stormcalling, you're definitely going to want Capacitor, Energized, and Amplitude, with again, Expert Mage only being important when you are in human form, which you're going to be avoiding as much as you can. Under Dual Wield, you do not want any of the passives because none of these have any effect when you are in werewolf form. Again, you may want to get these if you're spending a lot of time in human form, but again, you really want to stay out of human form whenever possible. Since this is a new character, I don't have many skill points yet, so I'm allocating them where I actually need them. You will be running light, medium, and heavy armor on this build. The medium armor passives are the highest priority, but eventually you should get all the passives for light, medium, and heavy armor. It's also a good idea to invest in Undaunted, so you can get Undaunted Metal since you are using all three armor types. But since this is a PvP build, getting to high levels of Undaunted is quite an ask. Lastly, you will certainly want to get all of your racial passives as an orc. Now it's time to talk about class mastery. The two class mastery passives you're going to choose for the Sorcerer are Conservation of Energy and Static Reverberation. Conservation of Energy offers excellent sustain. This augments blood magic to work with all your skills, including werewolf skills, to restore magicka and stamina whenever you use a skill. Incredibly useful. I have not found myself running out of stamina once yet as a werewolf. And then you're going to have Static Reverberation, which is the main reason you're a Berserker and not a pack leader. This gives you a chance to cause shock damage whenever you deal damage, and it increases as your enemy's health goes down, making it a very powerful execute. However, your chance of dealing that shock damage as health goes down is decreased when you have permanent pets, which again is why we are a Berserker. Time to talk about attributes and Mundus. To make yourself tanky, you're going to want to put all your attribute points into health. And since your crit chance is pretty low, you're definitely going to want the Thief to raise that as high as possible. As you can see, this build focuses more on penetration to make sure every single hit goes hard, but you do want that crit chance to be high as well. With your buffs properly applied, you should have over 36,000 health, which is absolutely essential in PvP. Now for the really important stuff, talking about the sets that I chose and why I chose them. One thing I really like about the Werewolf rework is the fact that there are so many different options you can choose. There isn't just one meta build. There are at least 5 or 6 different sets you can choose. And while the Shattered Path Signet is definitely the best mythic right now for Werewolf, it's not the only one you can use. And yes, see, there's the proof. I did actually get Shattered Paths. I'm not using Oaken Soul as a second best. I'm choosing it because I'm almost certain Shattered Paths will be nerfed very soon. That's what ZOS always does with new mythics, they always nerf them. So to future-proof this build, I am going with Oaken Soul, which we'll touch on shortly. Having all these options is amazing, but it did make choosing a build kind of difficult. One set I knew I wanted to use was Savage Werewolf, partially because it literally has werewolf in the name, but also because it makes light attacks even stronger and gives you an extra 6% damage just for being in werewolf form. It also increases your weapon and spell damage, which is very important for the werewolf, and gives you a little bit of extra crit. The Savage Werewolf set comes to the DLC dungeon Moonhunter Keep, and I just happen to have all the pieces I needed before I even made the build. You will need to farm that dungeon though if you don't have the pieces yet. Then after lengthy consideration, I decided on Shattered Fate for my other set. When you have 5 pieces of this set, this gives you almost 8,000 offensive penetration, meaning you will basically bypass the entirety of your enemy's armor. Shattered Fate is a crafted set from Necrom, meaning it should be easy to make if you have access to a fully stocked guild hall, like the one that we have in Spopes fam. If you are on PSNA, please do join the guild. Send us a message on Discord for an invite if you can't find it in the guild finder under questing. And then yes, I did choose the Oaken Soul ring. It is 100% true that many of the buffs you get with the Oaken Soul are already provided by the werewolf. However, definitely not all of them. What Oaken Soul really helps with is sustain. It also provides you with minor heroism, which will help keep your ultimate up. And then for my remaining slot, I did choose Valken's Scoria for even more offensive penetration. Now that we've covered which sets I chose and why, let's go through what I put in each slot. I have Savage Werewolf on my head. You could put Valken's Scoria here in heavy if you wanted, and put Savage Werewolf on the shoulders, but this works too. On all my armor, I have the max health enchantments, and some pieces have impenetrable, others have reinforced. On the head, you'll want impenetrable if it is Savage Werewolf, but reinforce if it's Valken's Scoria, because whether it's on your shoulders or your head, you're going to want that Valken's Scoria piece to be in heavy. Keep in mind that Savage Werewolf is inherently a medium set, so while it would be better for tankiness to have a heavy piece here on your chest, that's not really an option, unless you wanted to have your one piece of Shattered Fate be on your chest and have it be heavy. But then you wouldn't be able to take advantage of Undaunted Metal because you wouldn't be running any light armor, and you also wouldn't be able to access the light armor passives unless you did choose to use the light version of Valken's Scoria. That would certainly work. Let me know your thoughts in the comments and which path you end up going with. But long story short, you're going to want 5 pieces of Savage Werewolf altogether, one on either the head or the shoulders, another on either the chest or the shoulders, and whatever set you do have on your chest, put it in reinforced to increase its armor value. And again, health glyph on all the armor pieces. So here again, I do have the heavy version of Valken's Scoria for the shoulders, with reinforced for extra armor, and the health glyph. I have my one piece of Shattered Fate armor on the waist, in light to take advantage of the fact that that has the least armor value overall on the waist, and it's in impenetrable. The rest of your Shattered Fate is going to come from your weapons and from your jewelry. On the hands, we also have Savage Werewolf, impenetrable and health. Same with the legs, Savage Werewolf, impenetrable, health, and the feet, Savage Werewolf, impenetrable, and health. As far as the weapons go, I am dual wielding maces. Take full advantage of the weapon traits and glyphs. They are both the Shattered Fate mace, and the first one is Nirnhoned with flame damage. The second is sharpened with weapon damage. The idea here is to get both your weapon damage and your penetration as high as possible, while also getting a good DOT status effect in there with burning, and again, just keeping your weapon damage as high as possible. When it comes to jewelry, I have Shattered Fate on the amulets, with the weapon damage glyph and Bloodthirsty. On the other 2 jewelry pieces, we're going to have Infuse, also with weapon damage, and on one ring, you're going to have Shattered Fates, and on the other, you're going to have Oaken Soul. That does it for the gear. Next, let's talk about champion points. Do keep in mind that champion points are disabled in Battlegrounds, so this will only apply to Cyrodiil and Imperial City. And there is a version of Imperial City that also has no champion points, though they did remove the no CP versions of Cyrodiil and replace it with Vengeance, which we're just not going to talk about here at all. I'm going to pretend Vengeance doesn't exist. But anyway, if you are in a form of PvP that does have champion points enabled, here's what you're going to want to slot. In both the blue and the red tree, just try to get all the passives as soon as you can. And as far as your slottables in the blue tree, Fighting Finesse, Master at Arms, Deadly Aim, and Ironclad. Fighting Finesse increases your critical damage, Master at Arms increases your direct damage, Deadly Aim increases your single target damage, which again, you're mainly going to be focusing on single targets for this build, and then Ironclad reduces your direct damage taken, making you a bit more tanky. On the red tree, we're going to want Celerity for even more movement speed, Rejuvenation for stat recovery, Fortified for extra armor, and Balanced Vitality for extra health. Lastly, as far as explain the build goes, we will touch on consumables. I tend to prefer Bewitched Sugar Skulls for all situations. It's certainly working here for me, with its big buffs to all your main resources and extra health recovery. You get Bewitched Sugar Skulls from Witches Festival, but you can also buy the recipe for pretty cheap from guild traders. This is also a cheap food to make because it does not require perfect row. Then as far as your potion goes, I did play around with this a little bit. For a while, I thought maybe you should have an invisibility potion, so you can avoid being detected while you get your ultimate up in human form. I even briefly thought about doing a heroism potion before I remembered that Oaken Soul already gives you heroism. So in the end, I just landed on my usual Crown Restoration potion. I do plan to play around with this a little bit more. Maybe I'll find a better potion than just the Crown Tripot, but this does definitely work. Really, any Restoration potion will do great in PvP. Alright, that does it for Explain the Build. I've been recording for so long it actually got dark behind me here in Daggerfall. I really hope the video has been helpful so far. We're going to start wrapping things up with some PvP gameplay. As you'll see as we watch this gameplay, this werewolf is very powerful, at least in Battlegrounds. It excels at single target attacks, and you'll see that my general rotation, as I explained at the beginning of the video, is simply running in with Pounce, throwing in a light attack, rooting enemies in place, using Bloodclaws, and then going to town with Rip and Tear. As long as you stay reasonably close, which should be easy to do with your high movement speed, you can just keep attacking enemy players with Rip and Tear even as they try to run away. If they get too far away, just use Feral Pounce again, stop them in their tracks with Deafening Roar, and then just keep destroying them with Rip and Tear. I try to make sure to use Bloodclaws and also Feral Carnage, but oftentimes things are just going too fast. I just make sure to weave in light attacks, chase them down with Feral Pounce, and then use Rip and Tear. When things do get dicey, I use Hircine's Fortitude. It's your only skill that uses Magicka, so you should be able to use it quite a bit. And then when you do get 1000 Fury, try to jump into Rampage. It will increase your damage and also help you zip around even faster. Plus, it has a really cool visual effect. You'll want to make sure to use Deafening Roar and Bloodclaws so that you get stacks of Blood Hunger. But ultimately, you can make this build as simple as chasing enemies down with Feral Pounce, weaving in light attacks, and then just spamming Rip and Tear while continuing to weave light attacks. Sometimes I just get as feral as my werewolf and stop thinking and just do exactly that. Just spam the light attack button and also R1 and L1 and just keep doing that until they're dead. That's the build, everyone. Thanks so much for watching. I had a lot of fun putting it together. It is even more fun to play with. Zos did a great job with the werewolf redesign. It is a lot more fun than it used to be. I really do feel like this build takes advantage of the best parts of the new werewolf, while also keeping it future-proofed, because I would definitely not bet on Shattered Paths staying the way it is forever. Plus, the Shattered Paths playstyle is just kind of too frantic for me, and since you want to keep your ultimate as high as possible while you're in werewolf form, having it constantly being drained is just too much of a hectic playstyle for me. And speaking of generating ultimate, one thing I forgot to mention is you do want to be consuming corpses whenever you can. Even if it's the middle of battle, you will be healing yourself while you do it, and you're tanky enough to take hits. That's the main way you're going to keep your ultimate up, that and light attacks. But yeah, whenever you see a corpse in the ground, whenever it has that red glow over it, definitely use your synergy to consume it to get more ultimate. In the comments, let us know what you think of the build, what you like about it, what you might do differently, what you think about the new werewolf in general, and its utility in PvP. We definitely want to hear about your werewolf build, which direction you're taking with the werewolf rework, how it's working for you in PvP. Also, do let us know if you'd like to see a PvE werewolf build. I definitely like it for PvP, but I'm curious to see how it does in PvE as well. Before you go, please remember to support the channel by liking, hyping, and subscribing. And I would really appreciate it if you took that support a step further by joining the Spopes Army as a member. Plans are affordable and come with excellent perks. You can also show off your support for Spopes anywhere you go with my merch, or if you want to take the direct approach, just leave a donation. You can donate either here on YouTube or on my Fourth Wall site. I'm so grateful to y'all for watching and supporting. Please don't hold back with your comments, but I'm even more grateful to God. So we're going to finish up the video, as always, with a prayer to my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Lord Jesus, thank you for making it possible for me to make this video today. Thank you for the fortitude and insight you provided me with my research. Thank you for all the insight that came from my community. Lord, thank you so much for my community, for how knowledgeable and supportive they are. I ask you to bless everyone watching this video, everyone in my community. And Lord, please do also bless my channel with even further growth. Help me be the best content creator in the ESO space. Also, Lord, help me follow in your ways. Draw me closer to you. Lord Jesus, I give you all glory for this video and for my channel. Lord, in your mercy, hear our prayer. Thanks so much for watching until the end. Before you go, please remember to like, hype, comment, and subscribe. And when you do subscribe, turn on notifications, because I'll be back soon with new content.